And it's a different authority that can be used to actually cancel student debt. I'll admittedly say I'm not a lawyer. And so I know that the amazing lawyers we work with have many other scenarios. The HEA is just one example. We keep saying Biden has many tools in his toolbox. Besides President Biden, Congress has the ability to cancel student debt. They already gave Biden the authorization through higher education. And then we also have other regulatory measures. So we are going to keep chipping away at this. We have been around for over a decade now fighting to end the student debt crisis. And we know by no means is it over. And we have a much bigger fight on our hands today than we did yesterday. But you're not alone, Miriam. You know, we have 100 people now on this Zoom. We just announced this less than an hour ago. We know that you all are feeling really frustrated. I'm just seeing this pour through the chat. A reminder, if you'd like to speak, if you would like to share your story, please use the raise hand function and we can open up your mic. You can also share in the chat. Miriam, is there anything else you'd like to share with us or any more questions?
No, I'll give other people the chance to speak. I'm just happy that there's a community because this is obviously I'm very, very emotional and angry.
Yeah. I think we are all feeling like Miriam today. So I thank you for sharing. Again, a reminder to raise your hand, to continue to keep things civil. A big shout out to Sabrina, Ashley, Sarah Saris, and Orlando Caballo for helping us with the chat. I believe, I thought we had another hand raised, but if you'd like to raise your hand to speak, you can. I'm going to, Sabrina, Ashley.
Yeah, I just see a question in the chat, and I know that we're going to have a lot of that question. And how does this decision impact PSLF?
So this decision has no impact on public service loan forgiveness, period, full stop. Your public service loan forgiveness is safe. Your income-driven repayment programs are safe. This does not impact any of the other programs that are out there. And that is a really great, important question. So this only impacts the plan that President Biden proposed last August, which was $10,000 for all borrowers and $20,000 for those with a Pell Grant. That is the plan we are talking about today that has been shot down in the Supreme Court. Thank you, Sabrina. Go ahead.
Actually, this is Cody Onanian, Executive Director here at Student Debt Crisis Center. I just saw another person put in the chat too. There are other programs available that provide relief to borrowers, even beyond public service loan forgiveness. So I saw someone mention that they went to a predatory for-profit college. We still have programs like borrower defense to repayment, which I know many of our supporters are really interested in. There's relief for folks who are totally and permanently disabled. So at the end of the day, debt relief, debt cancellation is already part of the system as it exists today. We will continue to shore up and protect those existing programs. But it's just a reminder that when we talk about providing relief, it's not so far-fetched. It's already part of the student loan system as it exists today. So we have to continue to remind this administration and to policymakers that they're already lifting this burden where possible, and let's continue to do that.
Great. I'm going to open up the line for Lauren Kelly. Let's try. All right, Lauren, I believe you just need to unmute yourself. How are you feeling today?
I'm a little sad about everything. Good morning, everyone. I just had a quick question. You mentioned the HEA. Do you know how long they have to use that ruling, or how quickly you can actually see it go into place? Like, I know it said something about September 1st on the email.
So September 1st, October 1st, these are dates you're going to start hearing about. So there's a lot happening in the student loan space. The first thing is that student loan payments are set to restart, and that interest will begin September 1st. Payments will come in after October 1st. So that is something that has borrowers really terrified and worried, me being one of them. When it comes to providing additional relief, the president can use other legal authorities. We are working with legal experts and attorneys right now to make sense of what's still on the table. And I'm really looking forward, Natalia mentioned it, there's going to be some discussion today from the president about how he is going to move forward in helping borrowers. And I was on CNN this morning and I made it clear that the president needs to include student debt cancellation as part of his plan moving forward. So the legal authorities discussion, I think, is going to come into focus in the next hours and days. But we are very confident the president does, in fact, have options available to him. But stay tuned. We are obviously talking about SCOTUS today because it's top of mind. It's such an important and terrible decision that came in today, but it is our duty and we feel very responsible for helping borrowers understand what their rights are going to look like moving forward in the months ahead. So, follow us online, follow our emails. We're going to be giving other updates about other programs and even maybe new policy proposals in the coming days and weeks.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren. Anything else you'd like to share?
No, that was pretty much it. Just worried, like everyone else, especially when the interest starts coming back as well, September 1st, and the payments start coming back October.
Absolutely. And then Lauren, that's a great point. So much of the existing student loan portfolio, that $1 trillion problem, is just interest. It's talk to borrowers all the time who've paid back more than they ever borrowed, sometimes twice as much as they originally borrowed, and still can't get out from under their debt because of the broken system. So that is the interest issue is something we'll continue to pursue, and we're definitely concerned for borrowers who will see, their interest start to accrue again on September 1st. Okay, next, as far as hands raised, I see Donna. Donna, I'm gonna allow you to unmute here if you want to jump in.
Thank you. My situation is, I don't think, unusual. I borrowed for my children. I have Parent Plus loans. And I also was on the PSLF because I work for a nonprofit. So here's my question. I look at my PSLF and they've told me that they've only counted the pause because over the 10 years I was paying, I changed the way I was paying. In other words, I stretched it out and they took away my PSLF months. I'm thinking I need a lawyer for that.
That's a great question. And I do want to flag, Donna, we will have more workshops on PSLF in the future. So, outside of today's emergency town hall, I encourage you to join us for those discussions. But for those who are listening, what Donna's asking about is borrowers are now getting essentially payment counts towards public service loan forgiveness. A borrower has to make a certain amount of payments in the program to get their debt canceled. And what we are hearing is that there's a lot of errors in that count. There's a lot of miscommunication from the student loan servicers. There are a myriad of issues borrowers are facing right now because essentially the system is all sorts of gummed up and not working the way it should. For folks who are truly having devastating problems working out solutions with their student loan servicer, my first step would say, contact the Department of Education Student Loan Ombudsman. You typically do not need an attorney or to pay anybody to resolve issues with federal student loans because the laws and rules that regulate federal student loans are very clear. And so the ombudsman at the Department of Education has the authority to contact your servicer and help create a resolution. So I would say start there. And I will also preface this by saying it is taking a long time for borrowers to get responses from both their loan servicer and the Department of Education. So you definitely want to have a great deal of patience as well while you're navigating issues like this. So Donna, my advice, contact the ombudsman's office first, see if they can resolve the issue. I know a lot of folks who have had issues with PSLF in the last few weeks and months are slowly getting resolutions that are, popping up. They're getting a letter in the mail or something that says that things have been corrected. So there's
when I went on studentaid.gov, they said you have to contact MOHELA. So when I go on MOHELA tells me, don't worry, in 30 years or whatever it is, you'll have paid $500,000 on the $112,000 you owe.
Yeah. Well, one other thing too, and I want the whole group to know this as well. There are reforms happening as we speak designed to essentially provide more credit that borrowers should receive for these programs, but for certain red tape and other issues, they didn't get it. It's called the account adjustment. And that has not happened for everyone yet. And it will really be rolled out later this year in a way that borrowers who are facing kind of these minor red tape issues may actually be closer to that debt forgiveness than they are now.
But just one more thing, because I want other people to know, for some reason, they put my loans in forbearance. And that means I have a student in college and I don't. So I wrote to them, I sent them letters, I signed an affidavit, and they have it in forbearance. So I'm afraid September 1, I'm going to have interest compounding again. But I will do what you said. I'll go back to studentaid.gov and see if I can resolve it there.
Yeah, and particularly the student loan ombudsman's office, they're really going to be able to take action, which is great.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And I do want to just point out one other thing before we open it up for others. There's just a lot of issues happening for borrowers right now. And, you know, I think it's really upon us to try to communicate that to folks, that you're not alone, that many of us are experiencing issues that are baffling, that are really hurting us financially, emotionally. Again, we're going to be hosting our workshops throughout the next few months to really help educate folks on that. And I hope anyone who's listening that has issues will join us for that. All right. Yeah,
I'm looking, I'm looking right now, there are already a lot of people, and it's filling up more in front of the Supreme Court, specifically for this issue, talking about, you know, how upset and angry they are. I will say, I've worked in this space for over a decade. I've never seen as much support for this issue and support for student loan borrowers as I have during this entire fight. So there's just so many huge groups ready to go, ready to engage in the fight. So just a reminder about the rules, and thank you all for already keeping this incredibly civil and a safe space for those of us that are really, you know, harmed and getting through today's decision. We're going to open up the line. I believe we're just going in order as we see it. So Marianne Fox. Sorry about that. Marianne, you just need to unmute your mic.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
First of all, Cody, you did a great job on CNN this morning.
You can talk now. There we go. Sorry.
Go ahead, Marianne. I'm so sorry. Right when you were complimenting me.
Hang on. How about now?
There you go. Yeah, I apologize.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
And I cut your mic. So sorry.
Are we good?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, great. First, Cody, you did a great job on CNN this morning, countering the Biden debt scheme message that I noted down. So I'm here because of that, and I really appreciate your work. I'm super psyched to see on this website other stories like mine. It's the first time that's happened, that I haven't felt alone on a little ship in the lone sea. I'm on the interest bandwagon. I'm in Massachusetts, so I regularly stalk my progressive legislators who don't actually help. But, you know, I keep telling them interest for me. My loan is doubled because of getting out of bankruptcy and having that interest folded into my principal. Also, one of the things I noticed coming on your site is that there's a huge difference between the stories that you're seeing and the actual circumstances of borrowers and the general perception of them and the way they're portrayed on TV and in general in society. And I actually realized that I've internalized a lot of those perceptions. You know, we think that a student loan borrower is, you know, young and has no debt and no life circumstances, doesn't have to take care of anyone. They're going into higher level jobs. They always quote professors and lawyers, and that they're kind of avaristic people trying to take advantage of society. Well, you know, I don't think anyone said that about Morgan Stanley, and everyone knows that point, so I'll leave it alone. But I wish we could get more everyone knows about mesothelioma, right? Why isn't there more branding and advertising for some of these progressive issues? So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
And I was still saying, Marianne, that's what I was getting at right before. I agree with you. You know, for so long, even with 43 million people, there was not enough about this, and there still isn't enough. However, I think next year this is going to be one of the top issues of the 2024 election, and the Supreme Court agrees with us. The only thing I agree with on the Supreme Court right now is how big of an issue this is. They always save the biggest cases for last, and we were the very last day in the very last case.
More justices.
Yeah.
I'm ready now. I wasn't before. Now I'm ready.
No comment. And we're going to go to the next caller. Thank you so much, Marianne. I appreciate it. We're gonna go to the next caller, but if you're ready, give it a thumbs up. We have Shayna Hayes on the ground. Shayna, are you ready to go live for a quick sec and say hello? Awesome. Let me just, oh, you just have to, there you go.
Love
There
to
you
have.
go. Shayna out in front of the court. How's it going over there, Shayna? Oh, we can't hear you. That's okay. We can see you. Thank you for being out in front of the court and supporting student loan borrowers.
No,
Now
no
we can-
audio.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, the rally just wrapped up, and I believe folks are going to march to the White House. And a collective group is the plan. Yes.
All right. Well, keep us updated. If you and Sabrina want to call in, let us know what's going on. You can
We
share
will.
us.
It's been a really great turnout, so it's been awesome.
Yes, we need a march. That's what people here in the comments are saying. So thank you so much for marching to the White House and being there on the ground. We really appreciate it.
Always. Thank you all. Can't wait to tune back in a bit.
Thank you.
All
And I
right,
just
bye,
want
guys.
to remind
Bye.
the audience here why they're marching to the White House. And that's
Yeah.
because we, meaning our movement and allies and Student Debt Crisis Center, we don't think this fight's over right now. The president still has legal authorities to cancel student debt using a whole set of tools available to him. So you all are joining us here today because we want people all over the world to be able to see what's happening. But we've got, as Shayna said, tons of people on the ground who are going to go over to the White House from the Supreme Court and make sure he knows that we still want him to take action. And, hopefully he hears their voices, and maybe that even comes out in today's announcement of future reform. So
Right.
really important to keep speaking out.
And I feel like a broken record for those of you that have been our supporters for a long time to keep the pressure on. I know we keep saying that. I know we keep saying this is a big moment, but ever since the COVID pandemic, we went from payments being put on pause to multiple extensions to the president announcing to cancel student debt. The pressure is working. So, I will keep being a broken record and asking you guys to keep that pressure on, because we are seeing it work, and Biden will bend to the pressure of the 43 million people and to your stories. And I have personally delivered your stories to the White House a number of times. You have personally delivered it from our petitions and letter sends, and it's working. And, I see people sharing in the chat how grateful they are for those marching, and we're grateful to Shayna and Sabrina for being out there. So now we're going to go to our next caller. I'm just reminding everybody to stay, keep this a safe space like you have been. Appreciate that so much. Byron, your mic is open and you're allowed to talk. You just need to unmute your mute button.
Hi, we've talked about this before. And the issue is Congress and the creation of the program in the beginning. They've created this to be an additional revenue stream for the federal government. Even Speaker McCarthy even said this recently in relation to needing to get the payments started again so we can get $5 billion a month back from those who have the loans. So again, this is obscene in relation to the interest rate, which is killing everybody in relation to being able to pay off their loans. And if we were able to get Congress to change this on a retroactive basis and have the loans be recalculated at a 2% interest rate on simple interest instead of compounded daily, you would see a whole lot of people having their loans already paid off. And those of us who still may have some of it left over with reasonable amounts to be able to pay over time. It's obscene that Congress has created this as an additional revenue stream for Congress to be able to do this. It's as if we are being taxed because we borrowed money for ourselves, our children, to be able to get a higher education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Byron. And you're absolutely right. And I think the first thing we need to do is get the Department of Education to properly give us the breakdown of how much is paid to interest and how much is paid to principal. This is something as advocates we've asked for time and time again. And I can't help but think why they don't want us to see that, right? There's so much that have been spent on interest versus principal. that is why, one of the reasons why we have to cancel student debt is, because we don't have those numbers. So fine, don't give us the numbers. We're going to wipe out all the debt. It's the only answer. We have so many people raising hands, so we're just going to go through to our next person. Joanne, I am opening up your mic and you just need to unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I totally agree with Byron. My interest, I would be happy to give you my report, and I'm sure that, you can't get numbers, but I can tell you my numbers. I put 3 kids through college, and I still have 8% locked in. I have tried with Navient or wherever my son is now, tried to work out a program, to work out a payment plan that works for me. I sent in something that said, I could pay this take me back to my original loan amount and give me a 2% interest. I'll get it paid off in, 6-7 years, like a car loan. Right now, I've told them, I said, I will die before I ever have this paid off, because I have $177,000 in interest alone. I just pulled my report up, and that was on a $60,000 loan.
Say that again.
$177,000 in interest that has been put into the principal that now is constantly being accumulated on a $60,000 loan. And it says that, in 2035, which I won't be around for, I will pay back at that point $435,000 on a $60,000 loan.
It's just criminal. It's just absolutely criminal.
It's criminal. And
this is what you're sharing in your story. And I'm sure you have, Joanne, because this is what the other side doesn't understand. They say you took out the loan, you should pay it back, right? We've all heard that. But how can you pay back, $170,000 interest that you had no control whether it was accrued or not?
Correct. And that was the thing, because even at times I would say, I do not want this forbearance. I don't want this interest going into my principal. Hold that interest off to the side, and we'll see if we get to it, once I get the principal paid down. And they will not work with you. That's the absolute frustration of it all, is that they just say, well, this is the only programs we have, and if you don't fall in one, we're just going to push this interest into the principal, and you'll just have to pay it. So, I pay them every week. It's not enough, but in the interim, I've paid down my other 2 children's accounts, and I'm waiting because 2 of them have had some debt forgiveness that would have helped them, but they're almost all paid off. This is all from my first one when I didn't know any better, and I borrowed absolutely everything to send him through. I was going through a divorce and all this stuff. But it's just very difficult to get even to work with. I would totally love to pay back my government for what they did to help me, but they've gone, and like you said, it's criminal. I feel like I'm dealing with a loan shark.
Right. And in fact, you're dealing with the federal government who issued your loan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Joan, I wanted to say too, I think it was Mariama who mentioned this earlier in your story. I think underlines it, but student loan borrowers in America are hardworking, middle and working class folks who want to pay back their debts. They're responsible. By the very nature of folks going to get higher education and getting debt in the first place, these are some of the most responsible, bright, and ambitious among us. And so I'm really appreciative that you're sharing your story, because that is part of the shifting of the debate around student debt to make sure that misconceptions about who is impacted, don't continue. And so it's really important to us that we make it clear that we're not just talking about doctors and attorneys and lawyers, and we're not just talking about kids in college. We are talking about that big group in the middle that are just trying to get by, want to do the right thing, and are by all means doing the right thing and still can't get out from under this debt. So thank you for sharing that, because it's really important to us in our movement that we continue to get those stories out there.
Do you think, just one more follow-up question, do you think that there will be some sort of, I agreed with the student debt and what Elizabeth Warren was getting at and how it would boost the economy and all that. I think that was something that I hadn't even thought about, and I thought it made perfect sense. But for people like myself who really want to pay back our loans, do you think they'll come up with something better than just, I even was thinking, take us down to, like I said, the original or half or whatever people can really get into, but they can feel comfortable with getting back to paying this back, and giving, because obviously with the PPP and all of the things that have happened, the government's in a big debt and they probably don't want to shell out more money. And we're just hitting it at the wrong time. But at the same time, I think they've got to come up with some process that gets us out of this situation. My kids, they've all graduated, but can they afford their student debt and, their student loans and, buy a house and buy cars and whatever they need to get, to have a future? It's not as easy. I'm still helping them. And that's part of the reason why I can't pay my own, because I'm still helping them pay theirs down, because they just graduated and their jobs aren't giving them as much as they can to pay this $600-700 a month student loan payment back.
Yeah.
So it's a vicious cycle. And I appreciate everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you so much. And I want to address what you mentioned, then I'll go on to the next caller here, or audience member here. Joanne and others, today we're talking about Supreme Court. And I think I said this earlier, but we're talking about the Supreme Court today because this action matters so much. But if you're an advocate like us, a legal expert, or someone that's in our movement, we spend all day thinking about all of the other reforms that are needed to clean up this broken system. And so when it comes to improving the repayment programs, reducing the interest rate, holding the student loan servicing companies accountable, all of that is on our list of to-dos. We're actively working on all of those fronts. It doesn't get as much attention because the Supreme Court case is so prominent and it's taken so much, so visible and taken up so much space in the room. But I can assure you, for those who want to know that folks are working on other fixes, all of that is happening and will continue to happen. So stay tuned, and we'll continue to share, other victories along the way. Okay, next here I see Tara, and I'm going to allow you to talk. You just have to unmute.
Hi, good morning from the West Coast.
We're here in Los Angeles, so good morning to you.
Well, good morning from the Pacific Northwest. So I just quickly wanted to kind of insert a little bit of my story here very briefly. My loans from a half-finished law degree are almost 20 years old now. I've been in repayment plans. I've been, keeping my nose clean in terms of applying for and being accepted into all these, whatever they are, in terms of, keeping on top of repaying things. I did not finish my law degree because I had to leave the area and basically escape from an abusive ex-husband who left, everything on my shoulders in terms of the debt, because he refused to get a job while I was in school, and therefore I naively took out loans for paying groceries and rent. So that was 20 years ago. Obviously, I shouldn't have done that, but now here we are, and a $20,000 loan, I believe it was, is now $50,000, and there's no way I can pay that. And I have a good job, and I cannot do it. So I was wondering if you think that there will ever be some sort of form by which we can write an essay or, share the personal experience by which we have arrived here in this inability to repay what we were hoping to repay quickly, so that the government can see that it's more of a personal situation. It's not just, I don't want to pay it because blah, blah, blah.
So I was just going to say, I think, Orlando, if you can drop the story link, we have a story share link where you can share your story, Tara. We share, there's a question if you want to share with the media or not, but we share this with lawmakers. We share this with the president, with folks in the White House. It's really powerful to share your story. So we have provided a link for you for that will be shared in the chat.
Great, thank you.
Great. And then I believe we have Joanne. I'm gonna open up your mic, Joanne. Should be open if you just unmute.
Yeah, you just had me on, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so
Mhm,
much.
yeah,
If
no
it was
problem.
Joanne. All right, let's go to Bonnie. Bonnie, I'm opening up your mic. Bonnie, you just have to unmute.
Thing. Let me try that again.
There you go,
Nope, we
yep.
can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can. Hi,
Sorry about
Bonnie.
that. First, thanks for taking my call. I went to school as an adult learner. I had 3 kids, single parent, was trying to just make ends meet. I finished my degree, thank God. My kids have 2 of my 3 are in college. One's in a grad program. I have debt that, like a lot of people, that you wonder if I'm probably not going to live through my debt the way we're going here. But what kind of messages are, like, when our president, you know, he has the ability, it would be great to see him use those tools right now to help us out, but also the Supreme Court in these decisions that they're making now, especially, you know, 2 landmark decisions today. This is just insane. They, you know, ironically, I lost my job. I was working in HR for a student loan company, and the company closed because of COVID. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to get another position in HR, working really hard to do that. But I, like a lot of people, I don't have the money to start repaying when payments start. So I just wanted to say thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, well, Bonnie, thank you for sharing that. I think, you know, I think one thing I want to point out first off is when we talk to borrowers, you know, something that stands out with many stories is that life happens, right? Like, people get sick, people lose their jobs, people face obstacles, and our system, as broken as it is, also doesn't essentially care what happens in our lives. And it means that folks are just stuck under this debt forever. I think, you know, we've been encouraging folks to share their stories and take action. That always matters. But you asked the question, like, how can we, you know, make an impact with decision makers? At the end of the day, the discussion always tends to go back to, what are voters going to do, right? And so we're going to have to continue this movement beyond just our petitions and letter sends, but we're going to have to continue this movement into the next election cycle and maybe the next for future reforms. So we have to use essentially all of the versions of our voice, whether it's our story or it's what we put in the ballot box, to impact change. And I encourage folks on this call to not be fatigued by the different actions that are available. Don't, you know, resist the urge to become cynical, because we actually have made great progress. Today is a setback in the sense that we all obviously wanted this to pass, but it's also given me a great deal of optimism, because it has shown that the issue of student debt and addressing it has been elevated to maybe one of the most important discussions happening in the country right now.
Yeah.
And one last thing, Bonnie, and I'm glad you mentioned it. You are right. This is not the only case today. It's not even the only case this week or this month that has really had a major impact in people's lives. And so I do encourage folks to, you know, also save space for themselves to not just be, you know, swamped by the feelings that student debt caused, but also to, you know, embrace whatever it is you're feeling with regard to the LGBTQ case, or affirmative action, or any other SCOTUS decision that is impacting your life. We have to kind of manage so many different feelings today, and I encourage folks to do their best.
And thank you to the panelists that just told us Biden's speaking. We will get our a handle over what he's saying, because he might be announcing something new. So for those of you that have joined in the middle of this, we heard today that the Supreme Court shot down the Biden versus Nebraska student loan case that doesn't allow Biden to cancel $10,000 or $20,000 out of people's accounts under the HEROES Act. That's important. There are other authorities that President Biden can use to cancel out student debt. We are by no means over. I've been talking to a lot of press and different people today, and we keep saying that we may have lost this specific battle, but we have by no means lost the war. So many people are here sharing their stories. We've opened up this Zoom to give you all a space to share. Thank you all so much for being civil and respectful to other borrowers. And as Cody mentioned, our LGBTQ allies, our racial justice allies, that, you know, a lot has gone on in the past 48 hours with the Supreme Court. And we know that, you know, folks want to share how they're feeling and what's going on, and also just ask questions. So we're going to continue opening up the mic and keeping this on for a little bit longer. And just a reminder to continue the wonderful civility and safe space that you're all doing. So now I'm going to open up the line for PG. PG, your line is open. You just need to unmute.
Thank you very much for this platform. I organize with Virginia Progressives, http vaprogressives.org. And what we're seeing today is a political defeat. And I think a strategy that Cody has pointed to that we might want to try more aggressively in the following rounds is to start with the nature of how money works. And that is, we saw during COVID relief that the federal government votes money into existence. And President Biden knew this coming into his administration. He had a beautiful quote on C-SPAN that he said, in effect, to tell people who are in need that we don't have the money is neither true nor necessary. If we had all rallied behind that and truly understood what that meant, the explanation of that is in a field called modern monetary theory, MMT. He would have had the political support to go bigger on the student debt cancellation, and he would have had the backup to stand firm when the debt ceiling fight came. The defeat that we got was spearheaded by Bob Good, who is a representative in a district adjacent to mine, the 5th District of Virginia, and Good led exactly with this issue of how are we going to pay for it? We're going to run out of money. And then that forces who's deserving, who's not deserving. It forces us to try to make appeals to sympathy that, as Cody again pointed out, those haven't worked. We need to make the policy arguments. So I'm glad to hear that being echoed. And I urge everybody on this call, if we can say, not I'm suffering, they know that. If we can say, I know how this works, and this applies to all kinds of other issues. Why are we punishing education? That links into the affirmative action issues that we're dealing with now. And that in the court as well. It builds a much broader solidarity, and it builds the political power that would have given Biden the ability to do the right things. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think one important thing to note is Student Debt Crisis Center is just one of many organizations who are fighting to help student loan borrowers. And I've been impressed by our movement because our movement has worked in lockstep and in coordination to move all of this forward. But there are different perspectives and different opportunities to, attack this issue from different perspectives. And that is one of them that I think is really astute. We, at our organization, essentially echo the desire and voices of our supporters. And so we really include your feedback when we develop kind of our strategies, but there's other ways to make a difference and, plug in to the movement and with the group that you best identify with, because you'll be able to make a difference regardless of kind of the on-ramp you're taking to help us in this fight. All right, I'm going to move us forward here. Angelina, I'm going to allow you to talk. You just have to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, first of all, I want to say thank you. Because y'all are in front of the people that you need to be in front of. A lot of us cannot get in front of them. So first and foremost, thank you.
And Angelina, I don't want to cut you off, but what I want to say is thank you. We are able to get a seat at the table because of our supporters. So without you all taking action and uplifting our work, we wouldn't be able to speak in these spaces. So it's very mutual. Thank you so much.
I am beyond overwhelmed. These loans are ridiculous. They are ridiculous. Okay, I have my degrees. I have my MBA. I started my doctoral and could not complete it because I kept getting sick. I have been on CNN, Fox News, WRDW, Channel 12. I can't even afford my medication, much less paying almost $200,000 in student loans. And I didn't even borrow that. I did not borrow that. And I know it's not just me. It is cruel and it is criminal. I have worked all my life. I am 45 years old. I've been working since I was 13. While we have all this money to meddle in other countries' businesses, worry about other countries, worry about what's going on and everything else, but we don't take care of our own people. I am a veteran. I have served my country. I've done what I was supposed to do. I didn't ask for cancer 3 times. I didn't ask for COVID. I didn't ask for pneumonia. I didn't ask for any of this stuff. I went to school because we were taught you go to school, you do, get a better education so you can take care of your family. I am the mother of 7 children, and I raised all 7 of my children. I did that to show them, hey, go to school, take care of your family, do what you're supposed to do. What does it look like to teach your kids these things and then they watch you get screwed over? And there's so many of us. Why is this okay? There is so many of us. This is wrong. This is vile. As you stated, we're dealing with our federal government. Why does it feel like we're dealing with the mafia? This is wrong. This is wrong on so many levels. And I do understand chain of command. I do understand that there are steps. I do understand that. But enough already. Enough already. There's nothing left to prove. There's nothing left to figure out. No, there's no more research that is needed. It is plain. It is clear. We are not okay. And we pay them. How the heck did the people we pay don't take care of us? We pay them. We take care of them. We protect them. We protect each other. Why in the heck is no one protecting us? Where's the help now that we need it? Every time I turn around, we're in somebody else's country, worrying about what's going on with them. We losing pallets of money just going everywhere. What about right here? What about the parents? Ain't nowhere in the world I can take out a loan for my kids. I cannot and will not, because I can't pay mine. So now I can't help my children. Not with that. Because I'm stuck in a warp. 133, my debt right now is over $133,000. I did not borrow $133,000, nowhere near it. And like Miss Joanne said, if y'all want my numbers and want to see my stuff, please let me know. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you. I'll send you my medical records, all the medicine I'm taking and everything else. I literally will not file for disability because if I do, I'm screwed. I am terrified about this starting back up. With what? How do I pay it? It's not even about not wanting to pay it. Can somebody just please tell me how? How do I do that?
Angelina, I think you are expressing how I know I'm feeling, how all of us, so many of us are feeling right now. As Cody said, I don't think I can say anything to make it better today. That's the truth. But we will continue to do workshops. We're going to continue to be out there to make sure that you don't feel this fear with payments restarting. There are repayment programs. These are not a substitute for debt cancellation. However, if you are not making money, if you make $0, you can be in good standing with repayment. And there are programs, there are other groups. We work along with Debt Collective that are doing a debt strike. The department is giving 3 months They just announced today of a reprieve. So technically payments aren't due until the end of the year, but that doesn't mean interest isn't accruing, which, as you know,
Right.
everyone knows is the really big
That's
part.
the real monster, the interest.
I'll just tell you, Angelina, we're not going away. None of us are going away. And the movement, I just feel like the moment the president announced debt cancellation, he made the impossible feel possible. And with that, that means that so many more people are going to make this happen. We've seen this with marriage equality. I live in California. We saw marriage equality get passed and then shot down and then become the law of the land. I know that it's suffered a big hit today, the LGBTQ group, but I'm just saying that there's so many great groups and people like you keep us going. Your story, by sharing this with Angelina, keeps us going. I'm going to keep you in my heart and remember you sharing today as I continue to fight for more student loan borrowers, because as you noted, you're not alone. There are so many people dealing with this. You are so strong. We're seeing this from Joseph in the chat, for sharing your story, for getting on this call. Thank you so much for sharing.
I appreciate all the support in the chat. I see it, y'all. Thank you. I know it's not just me. And that actually makes me angrier because none of us deserve this. We didn't do anything wrong. We tried to do the right thing. And it's like, now we're getting what's handed to us. And that's not right. We were just trying to do the right thing. We were out here going to school, trying to work, trying to take care of our families, trying to be self-sufficient, and as y'all stated, life happens. And it's they want to make it seem like we don't want to pay the loans back. It's not that, it's just the disgusting interest. That's the problem. It's not the loan, it's the interest. Borrow $133,000. I didn't borrow nowhere near that. Right. But do you put this monster amount on us and say, figure it out? And yes, I have had where, when I wasn't working at all, go into the deferments, and I was able to go into deferment and it was fine. Where it has been actual nightmare for me is when I start working, then they want $200, $300, $400, $500 payments. I have $200, $300, $400, $500 and then some bills. I cannot. And they want to say, well, no, you need to be able to pay this. No, I cannot. I shouldn't have to choose between feeding my children. And now I'm a grandmother. My children have children. And this economy is a hot mess and my kids are in it with kids. And I can't help them because I'm trying to just stay alive and pay for my medicine. And I'm sorry, paying a student loan, I'm really not going to pay it if I'm dead. Now, will I? That's the thing that's frustrating, is it's making it impossible for us to do the right thing, but we're supposed to do the right thing.
I hear you, Angelina. I want to second what Natalia said. Like, I think everyone on this call and in our movement, we're helpers. We want to not just fix this problem, but we want to help the people impacted by it. And today is one of those days where we don't have all the answers. We know where the path is moving forward, but I am resolved seeing all the support you've received in the chat. And I thank you for being courageous and sharing your story. This is a consolation prize for everyone listening, but I think one of the great victories we have achieved today, even with this announcement, is that we have proved to the country and to the world that student loan borrowers are, worthy of this relief and are an important part of our communities that deserve support. And I think, just because some unelected justices in the Supreme Court don't see it doesn't mean that others are in the same place. So we're going to continue to move forward. And I am very optimistic. Angelina, if you'd like, feel free to email us and we can chat some more, or maybe even figure out ways to share your story. Our email is info@studentdebtcrisis.org. That goes to all of our team. And I want to move forward so we can get folks opportunities to share, but I'd love to chat with you.
Yes, thank y'all. I just wanted anything. Thank y'all. Please don't stop doing what y'all doing, because if it wasn't for y'all, they probably wouldn't pay us no attention. So thank you.
Thank you. And like I said at the beginning of Angelina's statement, we couldn't do this work. We couldn't have the visibility of lawmakers and the president without you all. It's the 2 million supporters that follow us, that share their stories and take action, that even gives anyone on our team a chance at being heard. So, again, right back at everyone on today's call. Okay, I'm going to move next on our list here. We had Duncan. Duncan, I'm going to allow you to talk, and you've just got to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. So I'm new to the Student Debt Crisis Center. So I'm not, I'm not sure exactly what all the things are that y'all do. I guess what I'm wondering is if Biden chooses not to use the HEA to cancel debt as an executive action, what's the plan? So one of you mentioned we need to keep the pressure on. Does that mean, I guess specifically, does that mean like an open letter saying we won't vote for you unless you use the HEA to keep your promise? Or does it mean that the SDCC won't endorse Biden if he doesn't use the HEA to cancel the debt? I guess I'm looking for specifics of how do we use our power as debtors to, get him to use the HEA to actually keep his promise?
So we're a C3 nonprofit, so we won't be endorsing. But I do think, that Biden is going to see what happens next year in the polls if he doesn't do something on this. I don't know if that we even need to go as far as a threat. It's pretty obvious with so many voters saying that, they were voting for him when it came to student debt cancellation, specifically with borrowers of color, with young voters. We're seeing huge polling on this. We will, as Cody said, we don't have all the answers right now. We will be taking steps. We have a current petition out that's being shared to have Biden keep his promise. I think our first step is to keep it relatively nice until we know, we see the writing on the wall. Will he, won't he? The other thing I would say is it's not just Biden that has this authority. Congress has the authority, but you're absolutely right, Duncan. It's probably going to come down to next year electing people who care about student loan borrowers and, getting them to go on the record and do so. So there's going to be a lot of action in this space. It's coming together. And plans, we're just not at a place that we're quite ready to share it yet. And these are all really great points. And I think right now, just getting on social, getting out there, signing petitions, we're one of many groups in coalition working on this issue. Definitely check out the Debt Collective, check out Student Borrower Protection Center, NAACP, Young Invincibles, and so many more. But we're working in step together, and we're keeping the pressure on via, these petitions, letter sends, sharing your stories, getting those out there to make sure that they are facing the people that they are hurting.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. And you mentioned, next year around election season, getting those elected officials into office who believe in, student debt relief. I guess, my thought is Biden presented himself that way. So I guess what does that mean for us if he just won't use the HEA to do this? What does it mean to hold them accountable? I'll go ahead and let y'all move on to the next person, but that's sort of, what I wanted to bring up. Yeah.
I will say, me, Natalia, not as part of the org. I completely agree with you. As part of the org, legally, I need to stay safe, but I completely agree with you, Duncan.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go to our next, I say caller, it feels like a radio show, but we're on Zoom. So the next person, Jonathan, you need to just unmute your mic. Jonathan, do we have?
Yes, is that, you guys got me?
Yep.
Sweet. I guess just comments. I don't really have a question, but just going through, with me and my fiance, trying to buy a house soon, so we were, trying to get ready for that. We had our rental not renew recently, so we're, been going through all this, and it's been frustrating. And my wife had filed for disability for 3 years ago, so I'm supporting both of us. And man, it is it's just hard looking at these houses. I don't feel like I've got a shitty job. Like I've got an okay job, but like housing is bananas, you know, and mix that with the student loan payments. It's just absolutely crazy. And I guess that's most of my comments. It's just, you know, trying to do everything right and just, you know, trying to make good for me and my fiance, and it's just crazy. So I just wanted to state that with the housing stuff is bananas right now.
Yeah, that's the point of this, Jonathan, is to share how you're feeling. And I hope this space is providing and showing you that you're not alone, but I don't think that necessarily makes it better. I mean, like we had Angeline say that it can just make you angrier, but we're here, Orlando sharing again in the chat to share your story. You know, we understand it's hard, Jonathan, not just for you. I was just talking about that to someone else, that it's, you know, not just the student loan borrowers, but it's our families, it's our children, our fiancés, our spouses, our parents that are also impacted by our student loan debt. And so we feel that we have, you know, this huge disproportionate impact to hundreds of millions of people versus just the 43 million that actually are the student loan holders.
Excellent. Thank you guys for everything that you do.
Thank you,
Thank you, Jonathan, for sharing. Right. Next here was Aranda. Aranda, I'm going to allow you to talk and just unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming in clear.
Okay, great. So first of all, thank you. I agree that we would not have been able to get as far as we had or go where we're going if it had not been for you all, and, you know, keep up the good work. My question is there anything that can be done about these egregious interest rates? I mean, I was in school for a long time. I started 2001. I paid cash, and then when I took out a small loan, and then I took out a larger loan to get through graduate school, a doctorate. And of course, when I graduated in 2018, and I looked at these loans, I was with Great Lakes at first. And then, of course, I got into the public student loan forgiveness program. And when I saw the interest rates on, I think it was 3 sets of 30,000, something like 27, 28, if not 29,000% interest rates. I don't know how that happened, because when I first started out, it was about 6%, which made sense. I thought to myself, okay, 6%, I can handle that. I thought to myself. Didn't know I was going to stay in school as long as I did, but if you know graduate school, you get out when they say you will. And that's the name of that game, particularly at that level. So it just seems illegal to me, but you know, they made it happen. I'm wondering if there's anything I can do to get that ridiculous percentage down off of those loans. You know, I hate to sound like a broken record, but, you know, killing me softly, not so much, but killing me, yeah. What can happen?
Yeah. So many people on today's call brought up the issue of interest, and this is something for years we've talked about. I remember when I first started working with student debt crisis, you know, at the time, the big fight was, can we refinance our federal student loans? And Senator Warren was leading that initiative. You know, I think those discussions continued to be had. And I know that advocates and policymakers are still very interested in figuring out a way to lift that burden. But, you know, we were really focused on securing student debt cancellation because, you know, legal experts in Harvard Law identified this power available to the president to unilaterally lift this burden off of all borrowers. And so that has been our focus as far as the you know, main push. But Aranda, just trust in knowing that advocates are considering and think about the issue of interest all the time. And there's nothing on the table, I would say, right now as far as like a proposal, but that doesn't mean that in the future we won't see new solutions brought to the table and new opportunities to secure different kinds of reforms. SDCC from the get-go has always been a all hands on deck, all opportunities pursuing organization. We've never felt that it's cancellation or nothing. We want borrowers to be, their best selves and provide the best outcomes for borrowers through any means necessary, any policy necessary. So we'll continue to do that work, but nothing on the table, I would say, at this moment.
And one last thing, and thank you for that. Will we still get the benefit of being affiliated with public student loan forgiveness in terms of the program that we are connected with?
Yeah, so existing programs, public service loan forgiveness, will still continue. Income-driven plans will continue. There's efforts already underway to improve these programs. So if you're already in a program, if you feel like you understand the options available to you, know that this decision doesn't necessarily change that. This is really just about President Biden's student debt cancellation plan.
Okay, guys, thanks for the great work and keep it up.
Thank you, Aranda. And we're going to go to we still have a few more hand raised. We're going to go a little over to make sure we get to those hand raises. But I know we have Sabrina Calazans on, our organizing director. Hi, Sabrina.
Hi, Natalia and Cody. How are you all?
That's a loaded question today. How did the rally go? Was there a lot of support?
There was a lot of support. I'm also here with Shana, who's our economic justice fellow and a borrower as well. And, we were here. There was someone who was heckling the crowd and just yelling at us. But overall, there was a lot of support for us as student loan borrowers and just people who are on our side. And, I'm a student loan borrower. This was a huge blow for me and for my family, but we are not giving up hope. We're advocates. We are stubborn. We're going to keep fighting. And this is not the end of the fight. And I know that a lot of us are fired up even more to make sure that this issue is just, moving forward and that people benefit from relief, because that's what people are entitled to. The president promised something and we're going to see it through, that he, follows through and issues the cancellation that we all deserve.
Thank you, Sabrina. And thank you and Shana so much for being there. I don't know how much you've been able to hear, but it's really been so important to have folks be able to share their stories and have this space. So just grateful to you for being on the ground, and we'll keep going. We're just
of course. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, we have a few more callers. We're going to go to Carol and then Brian, and then we do need to jump, but thank you all for being here. Carol, I'm going to open up your mic. You just need to unmute yourself. Carol, do we have you on? We're going to go to Brian. Carol, if something changes, let us know and re-raise your hand. All right. Just try this. All right, Brian, you should be allowed to talk.
Hi, good day. A couple things. First is we have to stop anyone else from using this program. So one thing we can do is stop anybody else from falling into the same trap that some of us have fallen into. The second thing is I feel so, I want to say violated, because I now owe money to people that I didn't borrow money from. So it's kind of like a Ponzi hedgehog scheme with these folks, where I borrowed money from one person and they sold that debt to another, and they sold that debt to another, and it's just turned out to be big business. The third thing is that I feel that the money was loaned negligently and maliciously from the beginning, and they loaned money to people who they knew that wouldn't be able to pay it back. And it's almost, I almost feel like as a special education school teacher, as an indentured servant. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Sorry, I'm just still at this like loss for answers.
Yeah,
And I
no,
mean, I
it's-
completely agree with you. I just feel like a broken record.
When I'll just say Brian is onto something, when the student loan system, I'm gonna give everyone a history lesson real quick. When the student loan system was created, there was a serious discussion about what it would mean to essentially, turn our education into a financial product.
Right.
And we're talking about, 60, 70 years ago. And the other side of that conversation was, well, can we provide a nearly or entirely free education to middle and working class Americans? And now we're in a situation today where we have let some opponents to college affordability and student debt reform, essentially convince us that making college affordable and removing the student loan system is somehow far-fetched.
Right, exactly.
And it's not. So we have to really get back to identifying what our values are as a society and as a country and create programs that reflect that. And the student loan system does not. So thank you, Brian, for sharing.
No, I mean, Cody, you're absolutely right. President Johnson created the Higher Education Act. That's where we get student loans that come out of that, our current student loan system. And it was for exactly that reason, because before that, we just saw, I'm white, but rich white kids going to college. And that was, the only college graduates we were getting. So it was intended to expand the program. It worked well. We see now more borrowers of color, more women go to college than white men. However, it only worked by putting mountain loads of debt, which, as you said, feels criminal, feels like it shouldn't have even been loaned out in the first place. So thank you, Brian, for sharing. Carol, we're going to try to open up your mic one more time. All right, Carol, if you can try.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey, I just wanted to say I'm 60 and it's just ridiculous. I only agreed to like $30,000 and now it's almost 60,000. And I graduated in 2019 because I went back and in my 50s to improve my chances of a better job. And here I sit.
Sorry, Carol, we are getting a big, I've heard most of it. We're getting a bit of an echo.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can stop that. Sorry. Hold on. Let me leave on the one. I had it on two different things.
There you
go. You hear me better now?
Yeah.
It's just like when you're on the radio
So-
and program.
So my thing is that really frustrated me is like I've said before, we didn't have a choice. If you wanted to go back and you didn't have enough money to pay for your tuition, they immediately bring you in like a used car salesman and pitch these loans to you. So you have no choice if you want to do this unless you're rich, and I wasn't. And then they base your being able to qualify for grants on your income from 2 years prior, which was ridiculous because I was making money then. My whole reason to go back was because I lost a corporate job and was trying to reinvent myself to do better, So it's a catch-22 and then you're stuck.
Yeah.
So now going forward, I have since lost the job that I got when I came out of COVID. And my husband passed away last year. I'm looking into getting widow's benefits and just doing what I can to get by, because trying to find a job, but who's hiring 60-year-olds? So it's, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to try to pay that out of the little bit that I'll get from Social Security and a part-time job, and they say, oh, well, it'll drop off in 20 years. Like when I'm dead, it's just insane. And like everyone else has said, I never agreed to that amount. I've paid off cars that cost that much, but they were 0.9% interest, not 6.5, or I think now it's like 8, it's just, to me, it's like, why can't they get rid of the interest rate and just readjust all the loans based on that? Like, what did you actually use to get your education? And it's not that we don't want to pay it back. We just didn't want to be loan sharked, And is there any chance of going to them and doing something along those lines of doing something about the income to debt ratio and the fact that there was others that talked about you can't even buy a home because it's counting against us on our credit rating. So just like they removed the health bills, the medical bills from the credit system, can't we get the student loans removed from the credit system so that it doesn't perjure us from being able to move forward in life? I mean, I can't even own a home.
One of the things that's interesting about the call today, people have brought a lot of interesting proposals to the
Yeah.
table, right? Like borrowers are already thinking about ways that the system can be improved. Carol, what I'll say is, we've all at SDCC and allies in the movement have gotten behind student debt cancellation because it is the most powerful single policy that could provide support to 40 million borrowers. But all of these things you mentioned, making payments more affordable, helping people purchase a home that have student loan debt, these are all smaller but really important policy changes that we have supported and continue to support, and actually have had major wins. I remember a few years ago, there was reforms to how Fannie Mae and other mortgage lenders provided or reviewed student loans that made it easier for borrowers. That's because we advocated with our allies for those changes. So everything you mentioned on advocates' radar and are being pursued, even if you're not seeing it in the news the way that you're maybe seeing the Supreme Court case in student debt cancellation.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Carol.
Well, thanks for fighting.
Thank you.
And thank you all so much for sharing today. I know I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life, and everyone that shared, I will never forget today for a very bad day, but you all gave me a lot of hope and reminded me why I'm fighting. And I know what you were saying was not necessarily hopeful, but the fact that you showed up and shared your story and are willing to do that and take that step makes me hopeful of exactly what I said earlier. Like, we're not going away. They opened Pandora's box with this by first pausing loans and then by the president saying he's going to cancel loans. We see you, Maria, in the chat. I completely understand why people will not want to pay their loans because the president had said that he will cancel it. But let's go besides one. There's so many Americans that cannot pay their loans. It's not a desire of wanting to or not. I think we heard from this call, all the people who literally cannot afford to make their payments. And so we will keep fighting. We're going to come back to you and not leave you hanging when it comes to repayment. Reach out to us. You can reach out to us on info@studentdebtcrisis.org. Send us an email, join our workshops. And then I know that Orlando is going to share a few links in the chat. So this is our petition to demand that Biden keep his promise and cancel student loans. And then also for those of you that wanted to share your stories, we had a few people express story share links to also share your stories. That will be in the follow-up email if you signed up for this Zoom as well. So if you didn't write it down, don't worry. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to our team, Sabrina Calazan, Sabrina Sarasaris, Orlando Caballo, Rebecca Josephs, and Shayna Hayes, our Economic Justice Fellows. And thank you, Cody, for this.
Thank you. No, I think I second that feeling that I won't forget this, and we're going to keep fighting. You will hear from all of us here at SDCC soon about how to continue to take action. So Thank you, everybody.
And thank you to everyone in the chat.
Yeah, we had several hundred people join. It's incredible.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.